Hello Repony, my name is Hawk Nightwing, the most unapologetic defender of G5 you'll ever meet, and we are back with another Wildmains review! Seeing as how Tired Tail seems to be suffering from its own severe case of blocky-walkies at the moment, let's take a look at how its competitor show is doing in the meantime. Wildmains Episode 3, Coach Chili is out, and it's time to review it. Now, I've been doing some thinking about this show, and after seeing how many fans there were in my initial review, I can confidently say that perhaps I treated it too harshly. Like, sure, it's not peak Tired Tail, and I don't think it ever will be. At least not now. But for what it is at the moment, yeah, I do enjoy it for its simplistic nature. It's a guilty pleasure. It's harmless enough to be enjoyed on a surface level, and there's nothing really wrong with having a more chill series. I have to remember that not every show is going to have a banger first season like Make Your Mark did with Chapter 2. Unlike G5, which at best tackles deeper and more emotional scenarios with spectacular writing, Wildmains is more so that comfort show you turn to after a rough day, and you just want to relax and indulge yourself in its laid-back nature. There's nothing outright kiddie or infantile that throws you off. It's just a series you can casually vibe to. And if you judge it like that, yeah, this episode is one heck of a godsend after what Tired Tail gave us on Thursday. And I think I'm finally okay with that approach. I've warmed up to Wildmains, if you will. And this episode certainly helped with that. It's an improvement over the first two, and I actually liked it a whole lot more. The basic premise is that Coco's preparing for a Coco Card balancing competition, but she doesn't feel like she's ready and requires training. That's when her friend Tilly shows up to whip her into shape. We get a little montage, Coco gets some cheering up from Dreamer, then after a while, she passes Tilly's training course. She even beats her own record at serving. The episode ends very humorously with Bailey running off after being offered training herself. So what do I think of this episode? Well, like I stated before, Wildmains seems to be improving with every episode it puts out, and this one is certainly no exception. I really like this one, and it was actually this episode that made me start to reconsider my formerly critical thoughts on this show. Now first off, I want to compliment the very smooth fourth wall transition. I know some people have taken issue with the how do we get here framing device Coco uses to introduce us to the main conflict, but I personally don't mind it at all and think it's a cool creative flourish. But I do understand that others seem to have a problem with it and think it's distracting, and that's fine. If you don't like it, you might not have an issue with how it's used here. This is honestly the most unintrusive way you could have this lead in, as it seems like Coco's just muttering to herself. The usage isn't immediately obvious, and I think that's a good thing. Just have it be an organic part of the action instead of stopping the episode dead in its tracks. In this case, the writers integrated the fourth wall transition very well. Also, the episode just generally paced very well too. We flow from one scene to the next very smoothly, and I've always appreciated that about this show. Even in spite of other issues like writing, particularly in Heard It Wrong, the pacing of these episodes is something I can say is very seamless across the board. It knows how to pace itself as a 5-minute show. Plus, I do also like the music for the short montage part as well. It's one of the only times I could say the background music was actually pronounced in this show, and went kinda hard. Both that, the type of shots chosen, and the way the scene was paced, you really get a good sense of the adrenaline the more Tilly pushes Coco. Speaking of which, I actually like our starring characters in this episode. Unlike in previous installments, Coco gets to show off more of her personality like her excitement, and she comes off as very eager to learn all that she can for the contest. The voice acting really helps sell her emotions. And I don't know, just overall conflict about training for this barista competition she is obviously passionate about, but doubting her own abilities and being willing to push herself to the utter limit in order to accomplish her goals made her instantly relatable to me as a viewer, in a way I never really felt with previous episodes. I was rooting for her to pass Tilly's training course, and I felt happy when she was happy. Tilly too is also very well characterized in this episode. She has this Rainbow Dash / Spitfire-like energy, both in terms of her passion and toughness while training Coco. For her first introduction in the series, I liked her a lot and hope we see more of her. She really is a good addition to our core cast. Dreamer, for a small role she had, is portrayed as very sweet and encouraging, and I can only recall one singular serving mention from Bailey. It feels like the more the show chugs along, the more we get to know the characters, and I for one like this approach. Instead of introducing all our characters in one go, we get to meet them episode by episode, and that's a good way to keep the interest going for the series. What can I say other than, I actually really like this episode. Once again, my initial conclusion about Wildmains being a very safe show still rings true, but you know what? I think that's fine. Maybe this show will dive into its characters the more it goes along, or maybe it won't, but we can't control that. It's more so a series you can just vibe to, and I think that's a perfectly valid approach for its target demographic, actually. Even if it means it will always have that something holding it back. I do feel like I judged the series a little too harshly in my initial review. If it wants to be a more casual and less thematically poignant series, then it's completely valid for it to go in that direction and form its own identity. It'll inevitably have its detractors for not being deep, of course, but that's fine. Honestly, I think the only episode that didn't click with me was the first, due to the type of story it was trying to tell, which required risk-taking that the show wasn't willing to take. Like, we made an episode about one of our characters potentially leaving town, have the characters show a bit more emotion here. But with this episode and the last one tackling more everyday scenarios, the show seems to have finally found its footing, and I enjoy it. I do. It's not phenomenal, but it's a pretty solid show for what it is. I'm not expecting anything big or grand. I think the goal of this series is just for us to have a fun time with these young horses as they live life together. It's laid back, adorable, charming, and I enjoy watching the characters well enough. Maybe I'm just feeling a bit generous today because the last Terra Tale episode sent my brain cells to the moon for 1,000 years, and I'll gladly take anything after that, but I honestly think this episode was good. My only gripe is at the moment where Coco doubts herself didn't go on for longer. She got over that way too easily. But what do you guys think of Wild Mains episode 3? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you are new here and you want to see more, then feel free to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to be updated on future content. We analysts appear to be a dying breed in the community as mindless hate videos are all the rage, so your contributions make a huge difference in helping me grow. Until next time, this is Hawk Nightwing signing out. Hoof to heart.